argument against motion, right? Forward motion. When you're speaking about that, it reminded me of the northern Ugandan situation.
Yeah.
And what is the northern Ugandan situation? This is a region of the country that historically had been marginalized in the colonial phase, all right? But even with the emergence of subsequent movements, subsequent political organizations in the country that wanted to mobilize the entire nation, right, towards some kind of nation building project, you saw a lot of historical violence that the region suffered. You know, there was violence from itself. You know, you had the Lord's Resistance Army, the LRA of Joseph Kony, you know, that came in, you know, traumatized literally a lot of people, right, in the region. And different attempts within, you know, the region at, because in Uganda, historically, there has always been this north-south split, right?
Mhm.
And that conflict that has existed for several reasons. But you see that at some point now, Uganda is, like, as we speak, you know, that we're in the process, they're in the process of counting the votes of an election, right, to see,
Yeah.
you know, who is going to run the country for the next 7 years or 5 years. And you see that already there's this skepticism in the mind of people that we don't want war. Why? Because we are tired, right? We are tired. So, so where I come from, people would say things like, "Okay, we've been running, right? Like we don't want to run again. You know, we
Yeah.
want to settle because there's a history of people being in internally displaced camps due to various groups both within and then later on, even when the Museveni state came to now pacify the country, you know,
Mhm.
and eliminate, like when in that process again of establishing hegemony over the country by eliminating alternative centers of power, that occasioned even more trauma on these people,
Mhm.
right? So now when people are going to an election, it's very easy for the state to harken back to those dark times, quote unquote, to say that, do you want to return back to these times of uncertainty, or should we just keep this wheel running
Yeah.
and rolling, right? So when you're talking about Obama Moye's argument about how social political disposition leaves certain groups, you know, susceptible to hegemony, because of historical trauma, it brought back
Mhm.
that bit, right? And I think that is a classical case of a people that then say, "Mm-mm, like, we don't want to go back there."